Alright folks, so I've got this part way open here. I've taken just the upper screws out and I've put them all in here, and I've done that with this very small screwdriver. I have my pliers ready. I'll probably use these pliers here, and I have this ready to cut the wire. So let's get the rest of this lid off, just the top portion, being careful not to smudge the screen or do any damage to that screen underneath. You have to start here and start pulling it up with a flat screwdriver right here, pop it up, and just pry up under here and this side with a little flat screwdriver, and it will pop clean off. Okay, we have it off these other little catching points here where that silver line is, and now we're just going to pull the whole thing off right like that. See? It comes off like that. This is what we have to be careful for, and we have to clean that. Most likely fingerprints get on it, and also clean the underside of this when we put it back together. But, so, this is what it looks like over on this side, and that's our main concern. Our concern is not with the blue and white wires, that's the speaker, but it's the red and black wire. Who knows, your model may be a different color scheme. But there's that, and we will get rid of the issue with this locking into place. So let's go into this side here, remove that silver thing, and then remove the nut and the washer. Okay, now we are going to peel this off, this piece right here. This is the cover. Still sticky there, we can stick it back on after, but we pretty much have to put glue on it. And now we have to get rid of where that came off of that plastic there. That has to go, because we can't do our job when that's there. And the speaker's underneath, we have to set the speaker aside too. So for now, let's just take care of the microphone, and we're going to cut the black and red wires. Remember, there's no battery in there. You never want to do this with your battery in there. Okay, now we're going to cut the microphone wire. Squeeze it hard. There we go. Let's spread them out. Let's cut some more of that so they don't attach themselves together or touch. As you see, I'm peeling this plastic part off here. This I'm just going to whittle back and forth till it completely comes off, and we're just going to lose it, this little section right in here. And the speaker is right here. I didn't cut the cable, which is the blue and white one. It may be different in your model, but we're just going to pull this right out. We don't, it gets in the way, we'll just throw this to the side, and we'll stick it back in later. Now in here is what we're concerned about. I don't know if you can see that square nut. That has to come off, and behind it is a little winged washer that we have to turn around and put back on in the same manner, the wings going in the same direction. So it's just a symmetrical flip. But towards the end of the bolt that's coming towards you is okay, here's what we're going to do to these pliers here, because they're not locking pliers. Unfortunately, locking pliers would be easier. So we have to put the elastic band, wrap it around approximately 3 times, like thus, so that it's constant tension, snap, snap on its own, and that's what holds it tight. In fact, I might even make that band a little tighter, and that's what we're going to use to clamp on to the nut and pull that off. We're not going to pull it straight off. We're going to come out to the end, and then we're going to go back and forth a few times to get rid of that lock stuff they put on the threads. Otherwise it'll be too hard to put it back on. Okay, so I've got this locked on. I'm actually, instead of turning this, I'm actually going to turn the head of the camera. It just makes it a whole, whoops, it slipped. Let me get a better grip. Let me go right in like that. I'm going to hold it tight, and then I'm going to turn the head. And I'm going to go back and forth a little bit to wear off that stop lock stuff that they put on there. Okay, and it slipped, so I come back out and I push this back in to position so I can turn it. Let me see, it's hard to open these with the elastic bands on. There we go. Now I'm going to come around. Try not to put my hand on the lens. Slipped again, but it's coming out. This gets a little harder towards the very end of. There we go. I hear the crunching of that stop stuff, but we need to get her all off. Okay, I have it, and I have it right here. See? There we go. So let me pull this out and put it in here. Move this to the side so it's not in the way. Okay, now there's a spring. And the spring is right in here. And that has to, don't lose that spring. It's actually very hard to get it back on. That's one of the hardest things here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these, I'm going to grab a hold of it. Since this is magnetic, see that? Let's put that into there. And now we have the winged washer. It may be very hard to see in there. It's got two wings and it's in the up and down position right now. I'm going to memorize the position that it comes out, and I'm going to flip it and put it back on. But it's got to be flipped. It's got to go on backwards. Here is that winged. It's only on one end. I thought it was two. But see these protruding little things? That was inwards towards the lens. We have to put that on. Let me see if I can turn this around. Without sending it off the table. This is the end, the smooth end now, that needs to go inwards. And it has to go in with the wing going in the same direction that it came out. I mean, if you didn't, you can figure it out. You can kind of go in and see that it's not rotating right. That's all due to not having the wing in the right direction. So, let me put it back on here now. And then put the spring on, and then the nut back on over top. The nut is the hardest part. Okay, I've got this on, and I put it on backwards. You see now the grooves are out. I'm going to move this around, maybe it'll catch a light. So now the hard part is to get the spring back on. Okay, the spring's back on. Now I just, with the elastic apparatus here, I have to hold real tight at the very end the nut, and it's got to go on here. This is the most fiddly part of it. But it has to be locked on tight. That's why it takes about 3 circles with the bands. Okay, I got it back on. It's better to hold it with the pliers and then turn the lens. That's the best way to do it, as opposed to trying to turn the pliers and have them hitting stuff in there. So it's the right tension that I like. Not too much, not too little. Now we have to put it back together and do a few other little things here. I got to clean that. Look at the fingerprints on there. Don't leave those on. They'll be on forever. So we'll put the speaker back in here, and I will piece this all back together. Okay, we got to put the top back on, so I'm going to start at the top because that's the last thing we finished. It's just going to snap back in, snap. You'll hear the snap. That one didn't. There we go. And there's no seam there now, and then we work our way down. The glass is all clean. Work our way down to here. It's all snapped on back in. The only thing we have to do is put And these are itty bitty tiny, and this is magnetic, which is an advantage. And we have to put the top, just the top ones, because that's all we took out, back in. We're done. Everything looks good. This turns smoothly now. There's no catching. There's no microphone. Obviously this, I'm not going to do it right now, but we put the piece back on, but you actually have to glue it to really make it stay on because of that cavernous hole. One last thing. If you notice that if you're on a surface and you go like this, there's a bit of a click here. That's because of that rib right here. This last rib has to be shaved clean with a knife or scissors or razor blade, and that way you won't get this click 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 of that thing. So let's do that now, and we are done. This is Johnston Blakley with Investigative Training, bringing you a handy dandy Sony Bloggie trick. We're also going to take a marker, a black permanent marker, and go around the silver.